Welcome into the show, guys. Look, no Georgia visitors this week, Rusty, but as I say in the title of the show tonight, some Georgia quarterback news is elite, and it starts off yet another elite week for the Dogs. Both Dylan Raiola and Ryan Puglisi making those Elite 11 finals. For the people that don't keep up with that, why is that a big deal? I mean, obviously, Elite 11 sounds awesome, but Georgia doesn't have two guys in the same class of this caliber, let alone two guys in the Elite 11 finals very often.
Well, the first thing I'll tell you is before we get to the Elite 11, we have our own 3 NIL Elite series in Nashville this week. And as far as I know, that will be the first time that Ryan Puglisi and Dylan Raiola are in the same room together. We have both of them on Tuesday, and we get to sit down with them and talk to them about everything, and it's really cool. We're looking forward to that. But as far as the Elite 11, it's Elite 11, which is actually 20 quarterbacks, I believe. So it's expanded over the years, but it's a long-going competition. They'll bring the guys out to California and really just kind of dig into them in the classroom, and they get to watch them throw certain things every day. I remember Trevor Lawrence going out there and texting a little bit with him, and him just saying, look, man, I didn't have a great couple of days. It was okay, but was just long-winded from high school workouts and then flying out there and spending all day in a classroom. I was just kind of exhausted. So you kind of put a little bit of stock into it, but it's not the be-all, do-all for quarterbacks. I take it with a grain of salt, but Brian Stumpf and those guys, what I like about it is they get them on the board and they get them in the classroom and they get to see where they are currently as high school players and how their ability to read defenses and anticipate stuff like that, make calls, is what I think is the most important part.
They also get a chance to kind of see where everybody else is too. And comparison can be a negative, but if you've got the kind of guy you want, it's not going to be. You're going to get out there and you're going to see how hard everybody else is working, or you're going to get out there and you're going to see kind of where everybody else is at as far as their development is. And then, if you've got the right kind of guy, he's going to see some things. He's going to take some things from it, and he's going to bring them back home and work on them. That from an evaluation standpoint, it is what it is. You're at the mercy of how, if you're clicking that day or not, like you were talking about with Trevor Lawrence, Rusty. I remember Brock Vandegrift went out there and had a kind of a so-so or maybe even a poor first day, and then was knocking beers out of a fly's hands. There on the second day and won the accuracy competition. So you just never really know in those types of settings, the underwear Olympics, that's what some people call them, whatever. But ultimately you're looking at, you've got 2 commitments, and whether they rise up the rankings or not, it's not going to change what happens to them at Georgia. And if you're a Georgia coach or you're a Georgia fan, you're just hoping both of these guys go out there and get better.
Who was the kid, Jake, a couple years ago? It's been many years ago. Wes, you may even know. Jake, who was a quarterback from Marietta that went out there that year, went to LSU, and he absolutely just shredded Anthony Jennings. Remember
Anthony
him?
Jennings, yeah.
He just went out there and shredded the Elite 11. I was like, oh, my God, this guy is like the next coming of everything. And
yeah,
you can't base 3 days.
I got to know him a little bit, too, and he's such a good kid. Like, he was such a good kid. Mm-hmm. But, so it makes what I'm about to say kind of a little bit tougher, but he gets to college and doesn't really even look like that competent of a passer, that was kind of what he struggled with, right there. And so it's really not an accurate barometer because, the guys running at you, moving you off your spot, all that stuff, it makes things a lot tougher.
Is it fair to say that it's a good gathering of talent that certainly has a lot of potential, but you're not maybe going to learn a ton from the event? I don't want to discount it. Maybe
I don't either. Now it is a primetime event. It is the event for quarterbacks. Let me be clear. It is the event. You set a goal to get to the Elite 11. That's a great accomplishment to get to this event. I think as people, fans who follow this, if Dylan Raiola goes out there and ranks 9th, it doesn't change anything that Georgia thinks about him. Ryan Puglisi went to Penn State's Elite 11 like last weekend. I think he finished 5th or 6th. That has no bearing you're also throwing to people you've never thrown to. So there's a lot of different variables involved there. So I think you take it for what it is, and you get to see these guys throw. Again, I think the classroom part is important too. You get to know, is this, how far along is this guy? But I take these things kind of with a grain of salt, but I do not want to discount the Elite 11 because it is still is the premier quarterback event, and a lot of kids try to earn that invite.
And no Trent Dilfer this year. No Trent Dilfer.
No Trent. Nope.
No running it. He's got his own program to run, so that'll be interesting to kind of see how that goes. One thing I remember all the way back there, I can't remember who did it. Rusty, you remember the days of countdown to signing day and all that stuff. And I remember when Matthew Stafford went out there, and that was a loaded quarterback class from a high school standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
Tebow, Stafford, Mitch Mustaine, all those guys were in the same class. And I remember the first day they were there, Stafford, and I believe it was Tebow or Stafford and Mitch Mustaine, it was two of the big ones, got up that morning and they ran. They got up before, like right as sun was coming up. They were doing like this little documentary type thing of it. This was after the fact. They got up and they ran a couple miles or something. And the other quarterbacks found out that they got up and ran a couple miles. And the next morning, they all got up and ran a couple miles.
I remember that.
So, and that's kind of like that's what if you're really looking for one thing, it's that competitiveness. It's that you're not going to beat me at anything. You're not going to outwork me at anything. You're not going to outdo me at anything. And that's kind of what you want. Juice Williams, I had no idea.
How about that?
Juice Williams, Illinois' Juice Williams was at that thing. That's crazy.
Look at Jevin Sneed.
Yeah.
We could do an entire show on this 2005 class.
Yeah, we could.
Oh, my God. Mitch Mustaine.
I don't remember Kevin Riley. I do remember Pat Devlin.
Pat Devlin's coaching, I believe, now.
Josh Freeman.
Yeah, he was a big athlete.
You know what? I believe it was Matthew Stafford and Josh Freeman who got up and ran that first morning. Then everybody else kind of followed suit. Jake Locker. Wow.
That's crazy.
A lot of money made
that dude. Who would have thought that dude right there was going to be an alpha Super Bowl quarterback? Just looking at him, and the number one pick.
I think he knew it in that picture. Probably took him a little bit longer than he thought, but who knew that he could also be instrumental or have any kind of role in landing yet another elite arm in the Georgia recruiting class.
Between Josh Freeman playing as long as he did in the NFL, Jake Locker's rookie contract, the money Matthew Stafford's made, Tim Tebow, all of that together. I would love to know what the full dollar amount there was, how much those guys shoot, man. I mean, with Tebow, all the money he's made working for ESPN. I mean, you can throw that in there too, because that gave him a platform.
I think he makes more money on public speaking than he does for ESPN. He has a hefty speaking fee.
I did not know.